How we doing, traders? Welcome to another Stock Market Movers. I'm excited to go ahead, get to another show where we cover the headlines and get to two expert opinions every single show. Let's go ahead. Let's dive on in on today's topics. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to go into we'll talk about the oil bounce back. We'll talk about tech rallying. We'll talk about initial filings for unemployment. We'll touch a little bit on China EVs, what happened there, Merck, also SPCE, Virgin Galactic, and Samuel Adams getting some movement out there. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We also got two great guests on today. We got Shaun Richards, Freelance Economist, excited to get into some kind of deeper economy outlooks. And of course, we have another guest that will be on at 1:45. That's going to be with Iron Capital Chair CIO Siddharth Singhai. So stay tuned for that, guys. We'll talk a little bit about what value investing is and what he sees in the markets. Hit the thumbs on up. Let's start diving on in here. Welcome to none other than Money Mitch, and it's always Stock Market Movers. Let's get it started here. It's time for Money Making Mitch. When investors need a story, we're going to the moon. Welcome to Money Mitch, where story is everything. I'm here to find you the next opportunity. It's all about the green hands. Now, we all know the bull market is here to stay. Money Mitch. All right, traders, how we doing on out there? How's the market? Let me know, are you winning today? Are you losing? I know I got back into the green. That's what it's all about. Trying to find ways to fight in this market is not easy by any means. Of course, we're getting kind of a little bit of a rally. We'll see what happens right now. I do think Bullard is going to be speaking. He's scheduled to speak at 1 p.m. Eastern. This could knock us down here. So if we start seeing the SPY just really start ticking down here, I'll show you guys exactly what I'm looking at right now. You can see the SPY kind of starting to show a little bit of leak there. We'll see if this kind of just starts cracking on down here. But we did get some kind of relief rally in here. We got a lot of the tech stocks bouncing on up today. We'll talk a little bit about that. Before we get into initial filings here, let's talk about what is really hot and what's not right now. So definitely, I don't know if you guys saw it, but energy and tech are definitely leading us today. We're getting a bounce back in energy. I thought we would get that because we were in oversold territory, at least in my eyes. You guys could have heard that from pre-market prep this morning. So if you guys don't follow pre-market prep, of course, stay with us. That's at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. That's with Dennis Dick and Joel Khanna. We were taking a look at some oil names. I was talking about how these looked to me like they were just a little bit oversold. Everyone out on Twitter and, you know, in the social world talking about how oil had turned around. No one wanted to buy it. Well, it looks like someone kind of jumped onto that train today and hopped on the reversal of that. Will this continue the rally in oil back on up, getting back up there to the all-time highs? No one's certain, and I don't think anyone really knows. Even the oil traders out there don't know, as we had some analysts put out there that, you know, we could have all the way up to $380 a barrel, and then some analysts looking at $65 a barrel. And then what happens today? Of course, you know, oil coming back there, jumping back above 100 after that commodities had been pushing them down here. But definitely seeing a little bit of a bounce right back above that 100. Another area where we saw a lot of strength was in where? That was in solar and semiconductor stocks today, doing really great. So if you guys are looking at names there, you guys can be watching. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look here. Technology still leading us 7%, over 4% there for the semiconductors, and solar names like ENPH really getting a nice little lift. JKS, look at that little push there. Boom. Nice big day there for Jinko. You can see here right out the gates, a big push on up. Array pushing well there too. So you guys can keep these on your radar. Big stocks making big runs and running like always here. Sunrun doesn't look too bad. We'll keep watch on these names. Of course, also semiconductors doing pretty well here. Let's take a look at some of the leading ones like TSM, NVIDIA. These all getting lifts here. A lot of this also based on Samsung's earnings that were released. And what happened there was it really just came in line, right? After Micron put the scare into the market, we started seeing a bottoming in these tech stocks. Now we've been seeing kind of a rally. It doesn't look bad here. Nvidia getting a nice push. I was talking about this one on live trading. It had a nice pattern here. Was looking for the push above to 157s and holding. You guys see it holding well right now. We'll see if this can continue. But it wasn't only these, you got QCOM making a nice move up, AMD making a nice move, and of course, even Micron trying to make that next leg on up. Marvel looking not too bad. I know my man Dennis Dick probably took a shot in this one. He did talk about that one. Doesn't look too bad there, bouncing there. We'll see if these can continue to run. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's get into those initial filings for unemployment benefits here. Getting into here, let's go ahead. Let's talk about this. So when we take a look here, we got initial filings of unemployment benefits totaling 235,000 here for the week ending in July 2nd, a gain of 4,000 from the previous period. The estimate here was 230,000. That's from Dow Jones. So missing a little bit there, not too bad there. Job placement though, job placement firm Challenger, Gray and Christmas reported that planned layoffs are soaring in June to 32,517, a 57% jump from a month ago and the highest total since, of course, February 2021. So keep this on your radar. Are we going to continue seeing, of course, more layoffs? Of course, the jobs number tomorrow is going to be even more important than this one that was released today. So keep this on your radar. We'll keep watching what happens in the jobs. And of course, what happens with Bullard speaking right now. All right, let's go ahead. Let's keep going here. Let's go into some headlines, see what we see out there. I know that a lot of people didn't miss it, but let's talk about it. GME with a 4-for-1 stock split. So let's go ahead. Let's bring up the stock here. GME pushing back after coming back down there towards 124, now up there towards the 131. What happened here? Shareholders who own the stock at the close on the market on July 18th. So pay attention to that date. I would write that date down. Make sure if you're a GME trader, you understand that date, which is July 18th, where you'll get a dividend of 3 additional shares for each company Class A common stock. The retailer said that the dividend would be distributed after trading closes on July 21st. So you have to be in before that July 18th. And then, of course, you would get the dividend distributed after the trading closes on July 21st. You will start trading on a split adjusted basis the following day. So keep this on your radar. We'll see what happens there in GME, of course. And if you're able to kind of continue this gain with the stock split, trying to do a little bit of financial engineering, as my friend Joel Alconin likes to refer to it. But we'll see if GME can really keep pumping and keep getting that push here. Not a bad day there. And I also saw AMC up big here. Look at that, guys. Look at that. That's a nice squeeze there, about 12% there in AMC. So looks like the apes, they're out there and banging out there. So definitely be careful on out there. You're seeing a lot more of these short squeeze. So we'll see if these can continue running and getting that push. All right, let's go ahead. Let's continue towards the next headlines here. I did want to touch about insider buys that have been coming in BBBY, and that's why you've probably seen it get a nice lift today. So CEO, at least interim CEO, stepping up and taking some purchase insiders. You're seeing that nice lift there in BBB. It went up there about almost 20% today. So that was one that we were looking at because of insider buys. We talked about that on pre-market prep. So I hope that you guys were able to catch that, especially there's been kind of more of a recent trend for those insider buys. So keep that on your radar. What's one way that you can do that? Of course, if you have Benzinga Pro, it's going to be pretty easy. I'll show you guys that right now. If you guys want to get this, all you got to do is just go to pro.benzinga.com and you can look up any symbol. You could look up GME, let's say if we're looking here, and then you went in here into the calendar. You can go ahead and scroll to the right here. I'm actually going to close this down so you can see it full screen here. And then you went towards what you were looking for, the insider tab actually, and look to see if you're seeing more and more trends on the stocks that you're trading, getting those insider buys. That could be a trend that could continue. All right, let's go ahead. Let's continue here. In a second, we're going to get into our first interview on the day. One thing that I did want to point out is that Levi Strauss is going to report earnings Thursday after the bell. Let's see how it's running now. That's LEVI. Let's take a look at this one because this has been on a decline for a long time. I mean, you take a look at the daily. We're not at all-time lows, but definitely pulling back a little bit there on the Levi. We'll see if retail can kind of get pushed back up, right? One of the things that I would say is that it's definitely lowered the bar out there. It's pulled back significantly from the highs. It's already down about, let's give it about 47, maybe 50% here. So we'll see if Levi can come out with some good earnings and get it bumping back there towards 17 and 18. Doesn't look too bad, but of course, in apparel, it's kind of hard to call it right now because some of them are showing some good signs. Some of them are showing weakness. And of course, we got to keep in mind a lot of inventory are in these. And if they're looking at recession coming forward, that could be a sign that, you could get a pop, but it could be a pop to sell. We'll see what happens there. In the unbreakable jeans, we'll call them, in Levi, I have a friend that always tells me, well, I mean, if the jeans never break, how do they sell the next one? We'll take a look at that. Like always, earnings after the bell today. We'll see what happens there in Levi Strauss. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into our first interview today. In a second, we're going to go ahead and get into our interview with Shaun Richards, freelance economist. Let's go first towards, of course, a pro promo here for you guys. And check this on out. If you guys want to check it out, you don't even need a credit card. And all you got to do is go to pro.benzinga.com.
Introducing Portfolio Synchronization with your brokerage. Now you can securely connect your brokerage account to Benzinga Pro, opening a world of personalization. Screen lightning fast news just for the stocks you own. Set alerts for news catalysts that affect only the companies you care about. It's all possible with a simple click and a secure protected connection. Overcome uncertainty and connect your portfolio to Benzinga Pro today.
All right, traders, let's go ahead. Let's jump on in. Looks like we're having some people joining on in. Definitely smash a like Eagle says. Let's keep it going here. Let's go towards our first interview today. We're going to Shaun Richards here, freelance economist. Welcome to the show, Shaun.
Thank you, and good afternoon to you. It's a lovely day in London. I hope it's the same over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's not bad at all over here. I know that you guys have a lot more action than we have probably going on. A lot of talk coming out, of course, today with the resignation of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. We'll get into a question on that. But first, I'd like to ask you, yesterday we got the FOMC minutes coming out. I wonder if you found anything here that caught your attention.
Well, there's two things, and they're contrary strands at the same time. The American Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, is to convince people it's going to raise interest rates. It's going to be hardcore, however you want to put that, muscle up. But in fact, markets aren't buying it. If you look at the bond market, I was looking at it just before I came on, the US 10-year yield only just crept its way up to 3%. When they actually increased by 3/4 last time, it was over 3.4%. So people are now more afraid of recession than they are of inflation in interest rate terms, to put it like that. And that's the conundrum right now, that, they're trying to talk big, but the trouble is people are replying, we don't believe you because we're looking further ahead.
Definitely agree with that. Now, one of the things that we saw today, similar situation, is of course what's going on in oil, right? Oil bouncing back a little bit today after its recent fall. Do you see this kind of signs as inflation's peaking, or could it just be kind of a correction that's going on in the oil markets now?
Well, in terms of its specific impact, it's been a lot bigger deal over here in Europe because of the energy issue and the problem with gas as well. And I don't mean gas as you call it. I mean, gas is in the thing you use to heat your home or, cook your dinner or something like that. That's how we define it. And the domestic energy has been a really big deal, partly because places like Germany and Italy put themselves in hot to Russia. There's an obvious issue with supply from that. And also because countries in our power system here, we've gone for what I call unreliables, others call them renewables, and they haven't turned up at various times. So there's a further pressure here on that front that a lot of the inflation story here is domestic energy. Less true for yourselves in the US because you have much more supply and more control of it, but it still is an issue there. I see things flick up from time to time about what you do call gas, the prices for that. And here's the thing, you see over here, it doesn't register because your price is so much cheaper than what we pay.
Definitely. I kind of I feel for you, and at the same time, I'm like, let's not bring them over here also, because it's hard to deal with that, especially high prices like we're dealing with right now, inflation, taking more from the consumer. Today we did get big news though, right? The resignation of Prime Minister Boris Johnson. I throw this question to you because you living in the UK, you probably see it more. How will this affect Europe overall and also England?
Well, starting with the UK, probably a lot less than what people think. The Conservative Party, I'm not sure it quite equates to either of the two that you have, is a sort of machine, and it'll come through to rolling it. The problem we have over here, though, as well, and I think it is more similar to yourselves, is that there isn't an obvious replacement. We're struggling for leaders or people to come in with basically anything. And I'm looking across the whole spectrum here. So that's an issue. There are potential of things that could be in play between ourselves and Europe, because obviously we did Brexit. The issue of Northern Ireland's rolling on. And again, I know that's an issue in the US because there's plenty of Irish, but from this perspective, and there's plenty of Irish in London, but Northern Ireland's a problem in my view that's insoluble. So at some point there'll have to be some fudge deal, and there doesn't seem to be any sign of that. But for other issues, just to give you an example, bringing it to the economic sphere, the story of this week has not been what you might think, which is pound falling. That would be the traditional thing, price that goes, pound falling, bond market falling, FTSE falling, and so on. In fact, the pound, if it's gone down, has been pulled down by the euro. And also because the US dollar's strong, something that maybe from an American perspective, you don't see so much. Unless, say, you're going on holiday abroad and you're changing your money up. But for the rest of us around the world, because so much is priced in dollars, that's a really big deal. The pound has just nudged up this afternoon back to 120. That's not a great level, but it is better than where we were. And is another issue in the inflation saga. It may well be that the euro will go to parity against the US dollar. It's been heading that way. And these are the things in sort of economics that are at play over here, because the king dollar, hollow dollar, however you want to put it, is putting a squeeze on us. We have an American who joined the Monetary Policy Committee, the Bank of England, and she's given a speech earlier about how you deal with the exchange rate. And essentially, what is meant is a US dollar. So pretty much everyone around the world's facing that right now.
Yeah, it definitely puts pressure around the world, definitely, because all the transactions going in that US dollar, like you just mentioned. Now, one of the things, of course, that we're watching here in the US is, and I'm sure you guys are watching it also in Europe, is the R word, right? Recession. How do you see recession right now, maybe in the US, or also how do you see it in Europe? Do you see it already here, or do you think it's coming?
Well, if you look at the numbers literally in the US, it shrank in the first quarter. And then according to the Atlanta Fed GDP now, it's minus 2% annualized, so minus 0.5% as we'd record it over here, looking like for the one just been. So that is a recession. Now, one needs to be slightly careful here because the US had very strong growth at the end of last. So I think you should look at the thing in the round. But that picture goes wider. My country, the UK, does monthly GDP figures. Now, there's issues with that. I don't think the numbers are accurate enough for it personally. But if you look at the trend, it slowed up. We had a decent first quarter. April, May, as far as we know, both showed contractions. That's the story around Europe too. Similar, I look at Japan, there's problems there. So the pattern is the same. And to my mind, the driving force is real wages. This is where inflation comes back again. I sit down and do various calculations, UK, Europe, places. And it looks like this year real wages are going to fall by about 4 or 5%. Now, once you start applying that to consumption and demand, that means a weird year for economists, doesn't it? Whether we have a recession or not. the year's going to be tough.
Definitely, it's going to be tough. And like you mentioned, it's not just here in the United States, it's worldwide right now. Do you think that if we see a weakening in the jobs market, with so many companies starting to announce layoffs, at least here in the US, do you think that that's what's going to be for it to take for everyone to just be clear in picture? Yes, this is recession.
I think that's one of the factors. Where we start from that's unusual is that I know the US has recovered better than us in Europe, but the labour market, if you look at, say, the unemployment numbers, has gone through the roof. Japan has unemployment of virtually 2%. So I think there's something wrong in the numbers personally. Need to be sort of careful how much that. In terms of, you're saying layoffs, we are seeing that in specific areas, like I was saying, there's a big issue in energy in Europe. So we're seeing that about places that use it, chemical industry, fertilizers. To some extent, the motor industry is struggling. And so it's those areas I feel stuck on, however you want to put that, because even if people buy it, what are they then going to do with it? So it's a very, very awkward time.
Now, one thing that I'll be watching is if we do get a good CPI number next week here in the US, we'll be watching that. Do you think here in the US, the Fed will turn dovish after a good inflation number, like when we start seeing it peak there? Or do you feel that banks are kind of out of hand here, a little bit handcuffed, and got to try to continue raising those rates as it looks like we're heading into recession?
Well, they've got themselves into a mess. See, my argument was people got to look back. I'm not a yes man's economics book. They should have done this last year. Mm-hmm. Once things were beginning to pick up, they should have taken away the stimulus. So in US terms, I don't know, got rates up to 1%, maybe a bit, well, maybe to where they are now. So they've got out of phase, out of timing. And this is the problem that we have. I don't think it's impossible that the next raise will be almost it. If, say, they do 3/4 again, so US rate 2%, how much more are they actually going to do? Because I fear the economy is going to slow down. Whilst they're worried about inflation, the truth is, if they really believed, same's true of the Bank of England, they would have raised interest rates last year. I would have done. So they don't believe. So it's hard now for me to take this it out. Therefore, what can they do? Well, I think the modus operandi is, well, look, we've got some growth. We told everyone how clever we were. Let's do that again. That's what I fear. And that's a road to take this even further if we do have a real downturn where we could see negative interest rates. Like, for instance, we have in Europe.
Yeah. That's definitely something to keep on watch, right? The yield curve inversion is kind of showing us something there. But thank you for coming on today, Shaun Richards. We'll definitely have you back on, Freelance Economist. And I appreciate you bringing not only here and covering, the U.S., but also covering it globally there. Thank you for bringing the information to the audience.
No problem. A pleasure. Thank you.
All right, there you guys have the first interview today. Like always, we're trying to get you guys in that informational edge. That's what it's all about, is looking around, getting to the experts so that you guys can hear for yourself what's going on out there. All right, let's go ahead. Let's take a look at some other headlines. We're going to jump into it. I did like how Shaun was mentioning there, kind of also the Japanese, the Bank of Japan. We was looking at what's going on globally. And I think this is also something that points me more and more that, yeah, we are heading into recession, because it looks like it's not just tight here in our markets. It's tight around the world right now. And with that being said, there was so much stimulus that was put in, not only by our government, but by the overall governments worldwide. I think this is really where we had that inflation and why we're heading into recession. But like always, you guys let me know in the chat what you guys think. And no thanks to negative interest rates. Yeah, it definitely could go into that. And I think if you guys remember back in kind of the pandemic, the Fed was even considering that. They weren't considering negative, but they were considering kind of the yield curve, kind of the same way that Japan kind of does it, where they do go into negative. So it was part of their tools in their toolbox. So we'll see what happens there and what the Fed determines to kind of continue going. Do they turn dovish? Do they turn hawkish? We'll see. I'm trying to see if I can find some comments on Bullard there. Let me know if you guys see what Bullard has said. I haven't found anything yet. I'm trying to do it while the show's going on. So let me know, guys. Let's keep going into the headlines and keep the things flowing here. Next headline that we're going to get into, let's go into Chinese EVs. So Chinese EVs here are up after the government said it would consider extending a tax break for EV buyers. I think this is definitely important to keep your watch on. Let's go to NIO. NIO having a good day, bouncing on back here. Definitely seeing that it got up there towards 23, now holding towards the pullbacks around 22.30s. We'll see if this can continue to run, but it wasn't only NIO, right? You also have LI here. You got XPEV. And if you take a look here, all auto manufacturers pretty much were all up. The only ones that I saw down here was PEV and VEV. So you're seeing a really strong day here from auto manufacturers, whether that be Tesla, Ford, GM. So definitely that's going to help. Whenever you get that positive catalyst with also a positive industry move, that's when I could see a definitely upside potential come on into play. All right, so let's keep going. Let's get towards some other headlines. Sam, Boston Beer. I don't know about you guys. I like myself with a good Samuel Adams. I especially I like myself an Oktoberfest. Summer Shandy isn't, it's all right. It's not my favorite, but I do definitely like an Oktoberfest. That's one of my favorite. But Sam is struggling here. And what happened with Sam, right? So they were downgraded here. And I think it's important to note, downgraded to a sector perform from outperform by RBC Capital Markets. And what did they state here? They stated, of course, that the truly hard seltzer and Samuel Adams would probably cut their volume guidance once again. They've already cut it once. You're seeing it down to 300. This was a stock that was at one point had a high of 1,273. That is massive on the retrace. If you take a look here, we're talking about 78%, 75% of the stock has retraced there from the highs and continuing to show downside action. We got to continue to watch what's going to happen here. But I also have talked about it. It's not the same conditions that you had, right? So when this whole thing was happening, we had like the seltzer boom, right? And everybody was coming out with seltzers. And yet there were some leaders, right? Like Truly. You could take a look at some other ones out there right now. But now there's seltzers from tons of companies. Even Budweiser has a seltzer. So I think in this case, I think that whole fade just is starting to come down. That whole fad is just giving it up. So we'll see what happens. Definitely isn't looking good for some of these. I mean, if you take a look here, it's not only Sam's. Look at Bud. It's trying to find a balance, but can't find it. If you take a look there at TAP here, Morrison Coors, actually holding up a little bit better than some of the other ones here. I'll show you guys. TAP holding up a little bit better, but also to me pointing towards the downside in the long run. Especially, I just don't see these stocks as being the ones that are sexy right now, and you're seeing it there. But Sam definitely down there towards the 300. We'll see if this can get back there, but it's been a hard one. I was even watching it at the 500. It did get a bounce. I was able to sell into the profits, but eventually came right back down to the 400. So you got to be careful in a stock like this, especially if you're trying to call the bottom. All right, let's keep going. Let's go to some other stocks on out there, some other headlines. I want to keep on touching them. If you guys got something that caught your eye in the chat, definitely throw it on up. I see, is the cost up for Sam? Of course. I would think the cost would be up for Sam, especially, they probably get hops from Europe. So they have to import that. I could see their costs being up. I want to look into their earnings a little bit more when they release that volume. Look for that. You'll probably get a little bit more in what's actually affecting them, right? In their earnings report, you'll see in the cost what is really kind of going up. That's what you have to check out, Nando. All right, let's keep going here. Let's take a look at the SPY. How is the SPY performing right now? We talked about how this could turn around because of Bullard speaking. Looks like we did turn around there from the 388 when we started the show, but coming down just a little bit here. We'll see if this can continue to run. Really, the Qs has been the strongest, right? You can see here we got up there to 293s, holding well. If you take a look at the daily candle, you can see how the Qs are really trying to get back there towards that 297 high. We'll see if it can get back up there and kind of hold and start turning around on the Qs. Right now, stocks doing well. Tesla up 5% there. We talked about it on this day here on Tuesday that it could potentially get back up through the 700, getting up there to the 750s. That was, of course, on live trading. So don't miss live trading, guys. We take a look at a lot of these stocks that are making moves. Right now, we are seeing some good push on up. Let's go to SPCE. If you guys are Virgin Galactic fans, let me know in the chat. You guys space travel type of fans? Who's taking the Virgin Galactic plane on up? Let me know in the chat. All right, let's go ahead. Let's announce here Virgin Galactic announcing a partnership with none other than Boeing with a subsidy to build motherships that carry Virgin rocket ships aloft here. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look here how the stock is performing on the intraday. You guys can see here SPCE really getting a nice little lift. It was definitely beaten down, got all the way up about 9% on the day. Now you're seeing it up about 7%. We'll see if this can continue making lifts. How did BA move on that? You can see here Boeing getting a little bit of a lift here after, of course, the Virgin Galactic kind of partnership. I think this is important too, because Boeing was kind of doing their own kind of ship to come on up, right? And I think this is going to help them kind of build on what they're doing. I think by going to Virgin Galactic, they're going to be able to probably get some of the expertise that they need to push their space program forward. We'll see what happens there. And Boeing getting a little bit of a lift above 140. We'll see if this can change the trend in Boeing, because it's definitely been in a downtrend. Taking a look to see if it ever cracks here and comes back into the 130s, because if it does, I could see this coming back to 100s. But right now, definitely getting a little bit of a bounce back on that news. And of course, what's going to happen in the airline industry is very important to Boeing. Are we going to get kind of more purchases of planes, or are planes going to get smaller because they're just not filling up the seats? We'll see what happens. Travel has been coming back, but of course, we're still fighting to get business travel back in the airline industry. All right, in a few seconds, we'll be getting into our interview. Actually, we got a couple minutes here. We can keep going through some of the names here. If you guys got a stock you guys want to check on out, let me know out there. TAP has one of the best dividend in the field. Good to note, Matt. I think it's definitely good to note when there's some dividends in TAP that can give you a little bit of some kind of money to be made back on a stock like TAP. You can see TAP was trying to come back there. We'll see if it's able to hold here. I talked about it when it broke the 50. It's been holding that 50 pullback pretty well, but also not taking off, just kind of staying sideways. All right, what's going on out there, guys? Hit the like. Let's go. Bring that energy. Let's come on. Definitely, I did see oil kind of catch a bid today. So let's take a look at some of these oil trades, see if they're continuing to lift here. You can see here, this is the sector overall here for me. But you guys can see XOM getting a nice push there, up about 3.4%. Chevron about 2.2. How did Oxy do? I know it was holding on yesterday, held on yesterday, then just pushed on up here in the pre-market, took out the highs of yesterday. You guys can see this on the daily chart here. I'll show you guys. High yesterday was 60.04. So when we went through that 60 is where you really started seeing the lift here. You can see right in the pre-market, it hit the 60s, started breaking through there already before the open, and it's really kind of gone sideways after that push at 62. We'll see if it can continue past 62. We've been seeing oil truly pull back. I thought they were in kind of an oversold territory and would get that little bounce back, but definitely Oxy is looking interesting there. XOM, what happens now? Did we get back there towards the resistance around 91s or 92s? I could see that coming back there into the 90. Really, we need to get some kind of positive catalyst, or it could be kind of a negative and a positive to oil, right? We'll keep watch what happens in Russia. And if oil can come back, I also saw oil coming back today, natural gas showing me a little bit of a lift. I've been keeping an eye out on oil to see what happens in the winter months. Of course, I'm thinking that natural gas can probably get another run going into the winter months. Maybe you see a little bit of a decline continue here in July, but as we get into September, October, and you start seeing the furnaces get turned on, I'd be paying attention to see what happens there in natural gas. I remember last year how my price kind of nearly doubled in Colorado. So I'm going to continue to watch natural gas because it's a tough thing to deal with, because at the end of the day, a lot of us have those furnaces that run on natural gas. Normally, that's the cheaper type, right? You normally want to have natural gas as being the cheaper type, or let's say dryers in this case also. But when you're seeing natural gas prices just completely rip through the roof, and of course the situation that's going on in Europe, it's going to be interesting to watch. If we might need to stop selling so much of those natural gas dryers. I know I just bought a recent electric one. Didn't want to go and take my shot with natural gas. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into what's going on out there right now. I do want to take a look again at the SPY. Bullard is speaking, but what happened to the market? That's what I wanted to watch. I wanted to see if we did get that downturn. We did. Now we're testing on back. Let's see if we can get back on through the 388s today, getting up there towards the 389. Talked about we potentially could get up there towards the 400. I think if, we can get through this 391 level, it could give us kind of the same similar pattern that we had back here in May, where we kind of went back to the resistance after cracking through the lows here, finding that bounce right back on up there towards the second resistance, and then getting knocked down. So to me, that'd be a move back up towards around 400, 405, and then getting the knockdown back down. But we'll see if that even happens, right? A lot of people are trying to call the bottom. We're seeing some bottoming action. I'm still going to be a little bit wary until I actually see kind of the market breadth numbers change. But right now, it doesn't look too bad there with that nice little push in the SPY. Healthcare had been doing really well. Biotechs still strong here, guys. Still strong in biotechs. So I do want to state that stocks like Moderna, look at the move that we've been watching since below 150, now up there towards 172. It's like a 21% move up there. Not looking bad there in Moderna. Also, Gilead making a move back up. VRTX looking interesting through that 295, getting to 300. We'll watch to see if that can continue making lifts. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get into our interview today. I'm going to go ahead and play a trailer. Then we'll go into here with Ironhold, Capital Chair and CIO.
I tell all my CEOs, this is a very, very, very important platform. And look, all the other platforms are important too, but you're up there now. You're way up there.
Best investments you can do in your future is actually go and re-educate yourself on credible sites and credible resources like Benzinga. I think you guys have been killing it.
The comment section on this show is remarkable. Like the quality of the combo, and just big shout out to you and your community.
So I love about you guys, you just had all your callers in right then. And it's all about the community here at Benzinga.
All right, traders, let's get into our second interview here. Let's go ahead. Let's bring on Siddharth Singhai, Ironhold's Capital Chair, CIO. Welcome to the show.
Well, absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Of course, I definitely took a little bit of time to watch some of the kind of the business school speakings that you have done in the past, and I gotta say, if you guys get a chance to check those out, definitely go ahead and do so, especially if you're into value investing, right? So first thing, I want to know a little bit more about Ironhold Capital. What is the strategy that you guys do? And of course, tell me a little bit more about value investing.
Sure. So we're a global value-based hedge fund. What that really means is that we're looking for asymmetric risk-reward opportunities wherever we can find them. Now, we do focus on US and India as core part of our portfolio, but we have investments in, say, a country like China. So we are really global value investors. And the strategy of value investing is not different than what the version that Mr. Buffett does, which is we identify high quality businesses. We try and buy them for a huge discount to the intrinsic value. And we want those businesses to be run by great management teams. And we're long-term investors. So we're not too concerned about short-term fluctuations in the market. And, if it takes a couple of years for the stock to realize its gains or achieve fair value, then we're more than happy to hold it for that duration. And we're relatively concentrated. We have about 12 to 14 positions typically. That's the high-level strategy.
So let's talk a little bit about why only a long-term approach seems to make sense when you're taking a look at a strategy like this.
Sure. So value investing is built on the belief that the market is irrational in the short run. And frankly, it's random. So what we believe is that it's not predictable in the short run, and that it's, very few people, if you look at the history of the stock market, have been able to successfully trade short term and, do it consistently over a long period of time. But over the long run, the value of a business and its market value, or what it's trading for on any stock market or exchange, they seem to coincide. And that is where we book our gain. So if we get into any business, we don't know what the stock's going to do a month from now to 3 months from now. But let's say if we are able to buy it for 50 and we think it's worth 100 and we're buying it for 50, and it takes a couple of years for that gap to close, then, we can get some really good returns out of that. And so it's really the belief that you cannot predict the markets in the short run, which is why we choose to be long-term.
Next question I have about is, how should investors approach a market environment like we're in right now? I mean, it's definitely a tough one out there. How would you approach it, Sid?
Sure. So I think this is a difficult environment. I think the priority should be capital preservation. And I think the one thing investors can do is look at high quality businesses that exist out there. They're like tennis balls. So they might go through a recession and they'll bounce back up. In fact, not only do they bounce back, but they come back even stronger because they're able to take market share away from lesser able or less efficient competitors. So, really be in high quality businesses, pay a good price for them. I think that still works.
Definitely. Now, of course, you do more research into, of course, fundamentals than probably a lot of the retail traders out there. So what are some good indications that a company is trading at a good discount? Should we look at price to forward earnings? Should we look at book value? What are some of the things that we should be watching in the fundamentals?
Well, I think both of those could be good indicators. Now, we typically look at yield, or which is the inverse of PE. So PE is a good place to begin. I would look for high return on equity over a long period of time. I would also look for a very strong balance sheet. And, from that, we get a universe of stocks. And then after that, I think it is up to the investor to decide where he shall play. So if somebody understands pharmaceutical companies really well, I think from that universe, they can look at pharmaceutical companies. And I think you should take it on a case-by-case basis rather than a sectoral basis. So, that's how I would go about it.
Now, I've been looking to see if there's any industries that are starting to get at a good, value investing outlook. Is there any area or theme that you're looking at that's finally getting to the point where the valuations are kind of making sense?
Sure. So I think tech right now is extraordinarily cheap. And this is across big tech, or, you could look at the FANGs, or you could look at the smaller size companies within tech. Now, I think there's a challenge in identifying the money losing technology companies that didn't deserve the valuations to begin with, and now they've corrected. But on the other hand, you also have companies that are or were incredible, but they've been beaten down unnecessarily because money's just flowed out of tech. So, a company like Wix.com, for example, it's been beaten down. It's down 70% year to date. And if you look at the fundamentals, it's an extraordinary company. There was no obvious reason why that would happen. So tech, I would say, is where people should be really looking for profitable companies with a good track record.
Excellent. Now I have to ask the hard question, at least from your opinion, what do you see coming? Do you see recession in the US coming right now? How do you see it?
Well, I think the recession would be very tough to call because the economy, we already had somewhat of a recession during COVID. And, we had very high unemployment and we had a whole bunch of businesses that could not sustain themselves and hence needed government intervention. So it is really, you could look at spending, consumer spending, you could look at, there's nothing fundamentally weak about the economy yet. Now, of course, if the interest rates go up quite a bit, then there's going to be somewhat of a slowdown. But I don't see a huge recession in the economy as much as I see a big correction in the market. I think those two things are slightly different. So you could maybe not have a recession, but the stock market could still decline, which I think is a very high probability scenario, given that it's still, even after the correction this year, very overvalued. I still think that at least 10, 15% above where it should be. So I think you may have a slowdown. I won't really call it a recession, but the market could really get beaten up over the next 6 months.
Definitely. I think you're right there. I mean, doesn't necessarily mean recession right now, especially the way we're seeing the job market. Job market doesn't point to recession, but a correction, like you said, we did get a lot of helping in a certain time when it was a really tough time. Could see that correction come down. Thank you for joining me today, guys. This is the Iron Capital Chair, CIO Singhai. Thank you for joining me, and I'm willing to have you back on. I want to talk a little bit more about value investing. Maybe we do a little bit more deeper dive in kind of like looking into earning sheets, because I feel a lot of times, especially retail out there, just doesn't know what to look for. And so maybe we'll work on that. Appreciate you coming on.
Well, absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for our interviews today. We'll go ahead and take some stocks from the chat. So if you guys got a little bit, we got a little bit of time here. So if you guys have a stock you guys want to check on out, definitely throw it on up there. Like always, guys, we're going to be getting to the experts' opinions and trying to cover different areas. If you guys have an expert out there that you guys want on right here on Stock Market Movers, definitely hit the comments after. I'll go ahead and see it and make sure that we get that expert on for you. Whoever it may be, whoever, I'll definitely reach out. I got no problem doing so. Let's go ahead and recap the day. We did touch a couple of topics today, so want to go ahead and recap them. We did talk about oil bouncing back, the tech rally, initial filings for unemployment. We touched on China EVs, Merck deal there, SPCE, Virgin Galactic with Boeing. And of course, Samuel Adams is something that we talked about today. We're going to keep on watch to see what happens in the markets. Do we close green on the day? We've been getting a rally all day long. Looks like we're continuing that rally right now. If you take a look at the SPY, we are pushing back up there towards the 388s. Can we get through the high? The high right now being 388.40. We're right off of that. Big area I want to keep watching is tech, right? Tech has been really booming. We'll see if this can continue. Nice day there for technology, up about 2.24% from the open, and energy really holding well there, up about 4.2% the sector and up about 2.06 from the open. We'll continue to watch how these stocks perform. All right, let's go and catch from the chat. What do you guys got on? F-Cell. Neville wants us to take a look at the F-Cell. I'll go ahead and take a look there. All right, let's go ahead. FCEL here. Fuel cell energy really getting that lift there today. Let's take a look at the daily chart. Is it coming off support? Looks like we are coming off support around the 350s. Trying to make a move maybe back here into this kind of this above the 430s could get us to the 450s. We'll see if this can continue to push here. That's why you're running into a little bit of trouble here in the 430s. We'll see if it can get to that next level and get up there towards the resistance of 450. That's where I'd see some sellers definitely coming into play. But we'll see what happens there. FCEL is not a bad one to watch. Also with Plug Powers, they try to trade almost hand in hand a lot of the times. So keep those on watch. If you're watching FCEL, watch Plug also. You want to see this continue to push. So Plug is actually getting through the resistance here, going on up towards this wick here. This wick is at 1970. So if it can get up there and hold towards the 20, you could see it get back there towards 22. This one is actually looking a little bit more bullish than FCEL right now. That doesn't mean that it can't change and FCEL can't get through the 450s and start pushing. We'll keep this on watch. What other ones being mentioned here? I did see Hood earlier, probably mind. I was looking at it in a bullish sense when it was hanging out at VWAP. But let's take a look here how it traded. All right, you guys can see here, I was looking at it right here when it was getting back above the VWAP. You guys can see here around the 8. This is when we usually trade up to 11. And I was watching this as it was starting to click here. Right here is when I got a little excited. I was like, 868, maybe a push towards the highs above 875 going to 9. And it doesn't look too bad there. You actually ended up getting that lift. Now we're up there towards 895. Where can I see resistance playing in? Just above 9 here. So this is an interesting one as we're definitely getting some bottoming. It could come back above this 907, trying to get back to 10. Has been one with a lot of rumors on out there. Of course, the rumors were knocked down after they were spoken of, but it's still an acquisition target, I believe. But it could take a little bit of while. Doesn't look too bad through that $9. We'll see if it can continue pushing. Bullard Power. What's up with Ballard Power? Pluggy. I see you. I thought you were talking about Bullard. All right, let's go ahead. I'll do one more stock here for us. AAP. I got you, Dustin. You're always here for me. I'm here for you, man. Advanced Auto Parts getting a nice little lift there off the 170s. Of course, you guys can keep watch also AutoZone with this one. It's kind of running hand in hand with those. And you guys can see here, it's getting a little bit of a bounce back after a big pullback. You want to see it kind of hold and get above this weekly. There is some candles here that doesn't look too bad off the moving 200. You can see how you just push right back above that. So I would watch now the daily, see if you can get back above the 50. It's going to come into some resistance there. I believe you're going to start seeing it come into that. Now you want to see it take that next leg on up into the 200. That's going to show you really strength here going into after this weekly. When you do that move to 200, you're going to be able to start seeing kind of this trend up here, start really pushing, getting on the back into the bullish zone. Right now, you're seeing that bottoming action. It needs to start getting back there towards the 200. AZO, I also saw was getting a nice little lift. So you see how this one's at the top of the range? Look for this one to kind of break through that 2200, giving you that sign that, yes, you could see it catch up with AAP, kind of the leadered laggard, leadered AZO, laggard AAP. I'd be watching AZO to break through the highs, and then I would be probably going after AAP off the support. We'll see what happens on that one, Dustin, and to see if it can make that next leg up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Definitely thumbs on up. Looks like the Fed hawks restate stance. So it's kind of interesting to watch the market go up there. I'm going to keep watching to see what is going on out there. What did Bullard say? I'll talk about that on At the Close. You guys come on over to At the Close. It's going to be at 3:30 right here on Benzinga. You don't got to go anywhere. Up next, what do you have? You got the roadmap. You're going to be doing a replay on specifically. Let me go ahead and show you guys. Roadmap here. We're going to be doing a replay here on, looks like, trying to catch up here. I'm not seeing it right now. I know that there's, they're talking about, there's like, looks like they're talking about the other side, Bored Apes, OpenSea. We'll see what happens there. Like always, guys, go ahead and check out their replay with the roadmap. I'm going to go ahead and wrap on up here. Catch me, guys, like always, tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow we got the meeting, man. Looks like, hold on. I think the meeting might end earlier. Let me just make sure here. I want to make sure if you guys need to show up tomorrow or not, guys. Yeah, it looks like we have the quarterly meeting going into 2 p.m. So looks like I'll be missing stock market movers tomorrow. Got a quarterly meeting for the company here. But stick around, guys. We're going to continue doing it here, how we've been doing it on stock market movers, where we touch all the headlines. We touch 2 expert opinions on the day and continue keeping you guys in the informational edge. Hit the thumbs on up. I'll see you again a little bit later on At the Close. And for stock market movers, I'll see you guys on Monday. Smash the like. Let's keep things going here on Benzinga.